review for ecology. Yesterday we were talking about cycling in the ecosystem. We were talking about how CO2 is absorbed through a plant's or leaves of a plant through their stomatas, and they are converted into sugar and other material that the tree needs, cellulose for the structural part of the tree. At some point they die, organic matter decomposes and is either returned to made into fossil fuel over millions of years, or it's released by decaying. Decomposers will release the organic matter, and you have released back into the atmosphere again for plants to again take the CO2 into their leaves. So the process continues and continues on and on. Same thing with nitrogen, except it's bacteria is responsible for converting it from straight nitrogen N2 into either ammonia. Nitrogen converts it into nitrates. Nitrites on the roots of legumes. Also, there are nitrogen-fixing bacteria that converts the nitrogen to a usable, something that the plant can use for its structures, DNA. So the new set of notes here, number 13 on your review, is niche versus habitat. And the niche is, we're going to keep this simple. It's the job that an organism has. It's in its environment. Obviously, it's going to need to be able to interact with the ecosystem, with its habitat. But it's more kind of the animal's role in its habitat. Habitat is just the place where the animal lives. It's the abiotic and biotic factors, things non-living, living factors that is in its environment. So habitat is more just where an animal lives. A niche is the role that animal, its job that it has in its habitat. So there's the differences between niche and habitat. So Darwin, going to number 14, Darwin went to the Galapagos, 600 miles off the west coast of South America, northern South America, off Ecuador. And he found these finches, these birds, and he didn't even at the time realize that they had originated from the same species, but they had evolved over millions of years on the island to have. Here we have the ground finch with its heavy beak was able to crush the spiny fruits, as they said, the nuts that were on the ground and low in the bushes and then you had the medium ground finch, and we mainly focus same type of bird but can't crush as heavy of a nut. And then you had the cactus finch that had a thinner beak, able to kind of get its beak into the flower of the cactus to get nectar. But the point was that they had all evolved from one species millions of years prior that had been blown to the island. Here we have a picture of a koala bear and a lion. Lion attacking, looks like a wildebeest. And here the koala has adapted for Australia's environment without worrying too much about predators like a lion. Obviously a koala bear lions can climb trees, and we could easily come up and get a meal out of a koala bear. Koala bear doesn't have a lot of defenses against of a predator like a lion. And the wildebeest can easily, they have large herds and they're fairly fast, and it makes it semi-difficult for a lion. Lions have incredible athletic ability. Their ligaments are such that they can, um, they're very, very, very strong ligaments, and they can um, tackle maybe a 500-600 pound wildebeest and make a meal out of it. But just incredible adaptation to be able to survive in the savannas of Africa. That gets into evolution, where you have over a long period of time, lions have evolved. The cat species has evolved from whatever species, I'm not sure what the ancestor species is for a lion, but evolution refers to a very, very lengthy period of ecological time, millions of years, where you have a development of a species that is completely different from its ancestor. Whereas with speciation, speciation is number 19. Speciation is over a relatively shorter ecological time, and there's still a fair amount of similarities between but they still don't recognize each other as mates. So, like a mountain lion and a lion they're different species. They wouldn't recognize each other as mates, and that's when we get to 18. I'm jumping around here a little bit. Species would be just one organism. A population would be a group of that same organism. A community would be a group of populations of different organisms, and then biosphere would be all the different types of living creatures in a ecosystem. I didn't have ecosystem in there, or biome. I kind of missed those, but that's where we're at with number 18. Again, speciation, just a shorter, usually less. You can still recognize that they're relatively the same, like a mountain lion, which is a North American cat, and a lion, which would be an African species. But you can tell that they're closely related to each other. So traits, well, this goes back to I have species, but I probably should have put individual, population, community, ecosystem, biome, biosphere. I'm not going to I just want you to be able to differentiate between the individual, the group, and the multiple different types of species or populations living in an ecosystem. On your paper, you have traits. Traits are just the kind of genetic features that are passed down to your offspring. So that would be, say, for humans, we have hair, ears, eyes. These are just the different types of qualities that an animal has. I mentioned Charles Darwin for 21. He's the man associated with discovering evolution, this process where animals change over millions of years by passing down the animals that survive will pass their traits down. So over millions of years, those traits, potentially each generation might have a slight variation in the traits, and the ones that have the best traits will survive. And so over millions of years, you have this this process, and Charles Darwin is the one that kind of is one associated with having discovered that process. Here we have food chain and food web. Okay, again, this is fairly simplistic. Here are the food chains, so this is just a direct relationship between the producer, first level consumer, and either second, third, top consumer. Again, you have just a very direct relationship between different species and what they consume and what they produce, whereas a food web is a multiple, all the different possibilities of relationships that a different species can consume. So obviously a frog can eat multiple different things, and a rat can eat multiple different things. A rabbit can eat multiple different things. And so that's the difference between a food chain and a food web. And biotic versus abiotic, this one's very straightforward. Biotic being bio is life. Abiotic is not life, abiotic. So that is the review, and make sure you know these different terms that we've gone over, because you will be seeing them again. All right.